Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Allison Seymour. I am anchor of WUSA 9's morning show, Get Up DC.
And I am Marc Clark, Allison Seymour's husband, and also co-host of Great Day Washington, also on WUSA 9. How's everybody doing? All right. Can you hear us okay? Okay, awesome. So pleased to be hosting today's ceremony, which honors 4 amazing individuals who have made lasting contributions to Montgomery County.
Each has shown a deep commitment to making Montgomery County a community that celebrates diversity and inclusivity, earning them the highest recognition for their contributions. The honorees are advocates, they're volunteers, community organizers, and nonprofit leaders.
The Roscoe R Distinguished Community Leadership Award and the Inez Zeigler McAbee and William Harvey Zeigler Humanitarian Award will be presented to community members who have at least one thing in common. Their lives have been dedicated to the pursuit of a just, equitable, and inclusive society. So, babe, before we go any further, we do have some distinguished guests in the building, in the house, so we'd like to acknowledge. We have Montgomery County Council President Gabe Albornoz here. Also, Delegate Queen is in the building. The Queen is in the building. And also, Council Member Sidney Katz is in the building. All right.
The Roscoe R. Distinguished Community Leadership Awards are traditionally given at the county's annual Montgomery Serves Awards, presented by the Volunteer Center. But like many other events during COVID-19, the presentation of the 2021 NICS Awards was delayed until today.
And this year, the county executive has established a new award, the Inez Zeigler McAbee and William Harvey Zeigler Humanitarian Award. It's now my pleasure to welcome County Executive Marc Elrich.
So it's really great to be here, and I hope our ability to do this lasts a little while. But it's really nice to see people together and be able to have conversations with people. Each of the people that we're going to honor today have made extraordinary contributions to our community, and you're going to hear more about that later. Today we also celebrate Human Rights Day with a joint proclamation. I want to invite Council President Gabe Albornoz to join me in reading the proclamation. I'll go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Proclamation, Montgomery County, Maryland. Whereas on December 10th, 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations approved the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, declaring that recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is a fundamental freedom, justice, and peace, is a foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. And
whereas basic human rights addressed in the Universal Declaration include economic, social, and cultural rights, as well as civil and political rights. And
whereas this year's theme is Equality Reducing Inequalities, Advancing Human Rights. We believe every resident of Montgomery County must play a role in advancing human rights as a basic core value of our community. We seek always to challenge and overcome the crippling effects of poverty, growing inequalities, and structural and entrenched racism. In doing so, we move toward full recovery beyond an unprecedented pandemic and begin the building back of a better community. And
whereas Montgomery County Government, its Office of Human Rights, its Human Rights Commission, and its Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice, along with numerous communities, civic, religious, and nonprofit organizations, has a commitment to ensure equal rights and protections under the law and fair and equitable treatment for all its residents.
Now therefore be it resolved that Marc Elrich as County Executive and Gabe Albornoz as Council President of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby proclaim Friday, December 10th, 2021 as Human Rights Day in Montgomery County and call upon our residents to participate in the important work being done to preserve and protect human rights in our county and aid in the full recovery and the rebuilding of our internationally diverse community. Signed this day, the 17th of December in the year 2021.
Thank you so much, County Executive and County Council President. And now to present the award to Jim Stowe, Director of the Montgomery County Office of Human Rights, along with family members of Mr. Zeigler and Serenity Bush, Warren Fleming, and Kamante McCrae.
Thank you so much, Allison and Marc, and thank you again for your time this morning, this afternoon, I should say, and you willing to be a part of this program. I do want to say a quick thank you also to Shirley Block, who stepped up. Shirley Block, please stand up and be recognized. Shirley is normally involved in the Montgomery Serve program that occurs and will be occurring again in the spring of the year. But was able then to sort of regroup a little bit, reschedule, as it were, to help us make this program happen. So we're very, very thankful to her and all of the team members with Montgomery County government, the County Executive's Office, the Office of Community Partnerships, that team of folks, thank you so much, and also our Public Information Office. And I want to also just recognize Andre and Tracy and Joelle, who put together a marvelous video presentation you're going to see very shortly. So, and anybody I'm missing in that team, thank you all so much for making this happen. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Now, let me get to the task for which I've been called to the podium for, and that is just to say a quick word or two about our honoree. And there is in the program a very extensive bio about Mr. Harvey Zeigler, also about he and his sister, Miss Inez. And so I'm going to commend you to look at that thoroughly. But I'm going to say a few words about Mr. Zeigler that I know and been glad to be an acquaintance with, because it is he that on a number of occasions, what he does, folks, he just gives you a call every once in a while. Just checking on you, young man. Just want you to know, I got your back. And that's the kind of person that he is. Dr. King says that everyone can be great because everyone can serve. And Mr. Harvey Zeigler not only knows that particular quote from Dr. King, he lives that quote from Dr. King. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my great privilege to be a part of this program. And I want to also just thank our county executive, who, when was aware of the situation, circumstance, and this whole thing came together. And Brother Tyler will take more, I'm sorry, Brother Fleming will talk more about that very shortly. Warren Fleming will talk more about that. But the point I want to make very quickly is this, is that he then saw it was that critically important that this year, that we in fact do this recognition in naming this award in the name of Ms. Inez Zeigler McAbee, and also in the name of Mr. William Harvey Zeigler, Humanitarian Award. So I'm very appreciative of his leadership. Mr. County Executive, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And now, as Allison has said, we want to bring up now members of his family who in their own words will share more about their uncle, and also about their great-grandmother, and also about their grandfather. And so I'm going to ask now Warren Fleming to come up, who is the actual nephew of Mr. Harvey Zeigler. Warren.
Good evening, everyone. I am so pleased to see everyone here today. to come out and support the Inez McAbee and Harvey Zeigler Lifetime Humanitarian Award. I also want to give special thanks to our county executive, the Honorable Marc, for his participation. The Inez McAbee and Harvey Zeigler Lifetime Humanitarian Award reflects the struggles and battles of segregation during the civil rights era. It highlights the story of the local unsung heroes that helped shape Montgomery County to what it is today. Harvey and Inez was on the front line and of these struggles, and they fought this battle with limited access to American privileges. Many of our citizens in America today still do not have access to these privileges, and this is why we must continue to fight to eliminate injustice amongst all ethnic groups. After Reconstruction, the African American community suffered greatly, and it was the humanitarians that kept our spirit alive. It's a foregone conclusion that in today's society, other ethnic groups and organizations such as Asians, Latinos, Jewish, and our education system is currently being targeted. We must remember that we all must work together to remove the injustice that hindered us and promote the humanitarians that are still on the front line battling civil rights. Let us not forget that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, but he couldn't keep it lit until his partner invented the filament to keep that light shining, and he was an African American. His name was Lewis Latimer. We cannot forget the gifted and extraordinary slave from Montgomery County named Josiah Henson, who showed the world that even as a so-called colored Negro, God provided the gifts of intelligence in all his human beings. In closing, I'm so proud to have worked with Inez McAbee and Harvey Zeigler as members of their organization, the Damascus Connection Committee. Learn the techniques they used to battle injustice during segregation without the support of American privileges is mind-blowing. We must continue to work with each other, like Thomas Edison worked with Lewis Latimer. And also we must have the endurance of Josiah Henson, who was better known as Uncle Tom. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kamante McCrae, and I have the distinct pleasure of being the grandson of Harvey Zeigler and the great nephew of Inez McAbee. And this is an honor to be here today for this great occasion and this introduction of this award. Now, what I want to know is, how did Harvey get the first award when it's his name? How'd that happen? But it's good to be here. So my grandfather fought tirelessly to ensure that there would be equality for African Americans here in this county and beyond. Whether it was for the right to vote, whether it was for equal pay, whether it was for not having discrimination in the workplace. He fought tirelessly to do that, more specifically for the African American community, but then it went beyond that throughout the entire community in Montgomery County. And I would hear these stories all the time, not just from family members, but when he had the opportunity to bend my ear as well. So certainly big shoes to fill. So it's just great to see that the hard work of both my Aunt Inez and my grandfather, two peas in a pod, and the work that they've done to be able to be extended to others and be recognized for what they do and have done. So on behalf of the Zeigler family, I want to thank you, County Executive, and others for making this happen. Thanks a lot.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Serenity Bush-Moore, and I am the great-granddaughter of Inez McAbee and niece of Uncle Box, which is how we call him. I'm here with my sister, Ashley Bush, to represent my great-grandmother. We do want to thank everyone for organizing this event in honor of our family. We are very, very appreciative. It is with tremendous honor and gratitude that I stand here on the shoulders of my great-grandmother, Inez Zeigler McAbee. My family and I humbly accept this honor on her behalf. The program that you have already includes many of my grandmother's accomplishments. For those of you that knew her, she was a tiny old thing. She stood no taller than like 4'3", and she may have been 100 pounds, absolutely soaking wet. But for anyone that knew her, she was larger than life. She has always been a fighter. She fought for what was right before it was popular. She was a leader of the social movement before there was social media. She was fighting for the lives of Black people before it became a popularized slogan. That skill to direct and lead for change that she used outside of her home to do this important civil rights work through the various organizations that she belonged to, she also used that within her home. When we were making cake and icing from scratch, she was still the boss. When we were cleaning up the house, she was still the boss. When we were working in her yard and in her garden, she was the boss. And when her husband, our great-grandfather, who we affectionately called Pop Pop, made a suggestion, guess what? She was still the boss. I remember as a little girl riding beside her and Uncle Box in the car to go to NAACP meetings and to church meetings. And she was so tiny that she had to sit on pillows just to see over the wheel. None of that could have been safe. We would go to these NAACP and church meetings, and as a kid, it was the absolute last place that I wanted to be. But due to her wisdom, she knew what I didn't know yet, which is that I would soak up the desire to create change, to better the world, and to mobilize people to create inclusive spaces for marginalized people. I and my family, my sister, my mother, my grandmother, who was also in that picture in the pink in the back, will continue to do this work in every single space that we're blessed to enter. So this big legacy that she created, that was packed into a very special yet tiny body, we will continue that on as a family. Thank you again for honoring a very, very deserving woman who we love deeply. My great-grandmother, thank you again.
Miss Karen Plummer Richburg has a very brief gift, brief unveiling, I should say, of a marvelous special gift for Mr. Harvey Zeigler.
Hello. It wasn't a plan for me to really say anything. I just brought Mr. Harvey a gift, but I do want to talk to you a little about what Mr. Harvey has meant to me. At 12 years old, I was one of his students at the NAACP Youth Council and became the president of the NAACP Youth Council. And I want you to know that we traveled from New York all the way to Virginia for different conferences and different meetings and different demonstrations, sometimes having dogs gnarl at us, very often singing and clapping. We worked with the Mitchells and when, unknown to, this would be extraordinary now, but we would go and they would say, we're going to Baltimore. We would end up in Cambridge demonstrating because we went where the need was and where there was some problem within the community. You didn't mention Mr. Harvey has been arrested one time. demonstrating and working for values of everybody else. Now, Mr. Harvey's been almost 70 years, and he used to tell me, Karen, you are really militant. I said, and if I am, you taught me to be so. So I wanted to do something, for him, and once I retired, I started to do some art. So I wanted to do a piece for Mr. Harvey. So this is a picture that I did for you, so you can hang in your room, okay? And this is Mr. Harvey from a picture they gave me. We all owe you so much. Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
We now have the video. In his own words, Mr. Harvey Zeigler.
Well, ever since I was 10 years old, I've been working at charity. When I was 10 years old, I was in Damascus doing volunteer work. A lot of the older folks didn't have inside plumbing, so when it would snow, I would shovel the privy to the mail, whether it was black, colored, yellow, any kind of color, I helped them in Damascus. Most of my important reasons for doing community service was I'm one of 13. I had 9 sisters, 3 brothers. And I felt like people needed help because even in my household, I had to fight for food, had to fight for some place to sleep, clothes, and the most important part was have to fight for love. And I know how it is to be in a downtrodden situation. You have to work from the heart. If the heart stops, that's how it is. And I realized people need help. I was doing it from the heart. And if you be truthful for people and work and try to do something good for people that need it, then I'm satisfied. My family, the Hosey and the Zeiglers, they did a lot of work for the community, spiritually, mentally, politically, legislatively. And my sister was a matriarch, and she really helped me coming up through the years. And by she being an influence on me, we got a lot of things done. And I'm glad that this award is being presented. I'm still trying. You don't give up. If you give up, then you haven't accomplished too much. But I feel like the work my sister and I have done in Damascus and for the county and the state, because I served in ACP for about 30 years in the Youth Council, and I've been all over Maine to Mississippi. If you don't work together and try to unite together, it's downhill. I've tried it. I was 101 years, and I feel like that's the only way to do it, is to unite and breast to breast and talk from the heart. Try means an effort. If you don't try and try again, you don't know. If you fail once, don't give up. Keep trying.
Harvey Zeigler has made a lifetime commitment to fighting for social and racial justice in Montgomery County. Time and time again, he's demonstrated a willingness to challenge barriers. He has a clear understanding that the fight for equality and justice has many different fronts, and Harvey was willing to engage on all of them. Harvey's been a role model for other people who encountered the same obstacles in the system that he encountered. They looked to his leadership and persistence. He inspired others to join with him in making sure that Montgomery County addresses the inequalities that our society has created. He is the definition of an exemplary leader. Harvey's dedication has been lifelong and determined. His work is an example for anybody, even in our current time. His life demonstrates that if you're trying to right the persistent injustices in our society, one person can actually make a difference. Congratulations, Harvey.
You know, it's not often that we get a chance to actually see and hear and touch a real-life superhero. And today we get a chance to do that. Let's have a nice round of applause once again for the accomplishments. And also, as Mr. Zeigler comes up to accept his award. Come on up, Mr. Zeigler. Please step forward to accept your award.
So one of the speakers asked, why is Harvey getting this award? He's getting this award, I think, because I think we all see his lifetime dedication to civil rights and justice in this county. And we've had a lot of people who've played an important role, but he's one of these people who actually knows this county for over 100 years. Not a small thing. And to have persisted in the fight for justice in this county through periods when it was totally unwelcome. Let's be honest about that. You know, people who wanted a fairer, more just society were not welcome to make that argument. And that never seemed to deter Harvey. You know, in my community, they didn't tell stories about Harvey. Not a shock. But I credit Warren with telling me a lot about Harvey. You know, I had known Harvey, and you know, as anybody would, if you do any work in the Up County, you would run into Harvey. I knew how he felt about things, but I didn't know his history, because Harvey is pretty modest. He doesn't tell you about his history and everything he did. Warren filled me in on the holes that I had in my knowledge, and it really impressed me. And then understanding what the work he was doing, the times that I encountered him in the context of a lifetime of dedication to fighting for this stuff, I felt like it would be a good thing to name an award for him and honor his service. I mean, very few people will be able to live up to being able to say, I spent a lifetime fighting for justice. And Harvey's a good example of someone who spent a lifetime fighting for justice. So I just wanted you to know this is why you're getting this. This is why it's fitting to be named after him, and this is a big reason we're all here today. So I want to present you with the award, and I'm not sure how we handle this.
I'm going to be very brief, because when you get 101, you go downhill. I want to thank everybody who supported me today. I want to thank the executive. I want to thank all the support that I have gotten from my relatives. And I'll be remiss if I didn't say anything about my friend locked at my shoulders and at my hip, Warren Fleming. He'll help me a lot. But I also want to thank everybody that have supported me today. Thank you.
Congratulations once again. Personally, I'd like to say thank you. We are Montgomery County residents, and I don't take any of the freedoms that we enjoy today for granted. And Mrs. Zeigler, you're a huge part of making that happen for families, all families in Montgomery County. So thank you and congratulations. The Roscoe R. Nix Distinguished Community Leadership Award was established by County Executive Ike Leggett in 2012 to honor community icon Roscoe Nix, who gave a half-century of service to Montgomery County. Each year, recipients are chosen by the county executive. And to tell us more about the legacy of Roscoe R. Nix, our County Executive Earl Elrich once again, followed by Roscoe Nix's daughters, Vernetta Nix and Susan Nix Webster.
So the Nix Award is the county's equivalent of the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's the local version of the nation's highest civil rights award, civilian award. Mr. Nix served as president of the Montgomery County branch of the NAACP, member of the Montgomery County Board of Education, and served this county in many other ways. And I knew Roscoe for years. And anybody who was engaged, I was a school teacher, so I had gotten engaged in school issues. Anybody who was engaged with school issues, anybody who was engaged with community issues, encountered Roscoe. And Roscoe was a force to be reckoned with. And frankly, I appreciated his militancy. He was somebody who was not content with the promise of a program. He wanted to know what that program was going to be, and then he wanted to know that the program was going to deliver. And if it didn't deliver, he would be one of the first people in the room telling you, you said one thing and you're doing another thing. And I always appreciated that about him. I think coming out of my own background, this involvement in civil rights and protests, the idea that somebody would protest something we were doing was totally normal to me. And I think it's a healthy thing for people to be able to say, this isn't what we expect and we need more. So the plaque shows the names of all present and past honorees, and it's displayed in the Executive Office building. And today's awardees have been added. And it's really an honor to have the daughters of Roscoe Nix join us and provide us with a brief history of their extraordinary father. So welcome the daughters to come up, or a video.
Thank you, County Executive Elrich. Our father, a civil rights champion, was a major architect of modern Montgomery County. Born in Alabama, he served in the Army in World War II and graduated from Howard University. It was in 1968 when our family moved to Montgomery County. While working as a federal government official, Dad was the county's leading advocate for equity and justice for nearly 50 years. A staunch critic of the de facto school segregation, in 1974, he became the second African American elected to the Montgomery County Board of Education. The county's annual African American Festival of Academic Excellence, celebrating the academic achievements of African American students, is among his greatest accomplishments.
Our father was a fearless and tireless advocate for educational excellence and social, economic, and political justice, and served as the president of the Montgomery County NAACP from 1980 to 1990. A member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and a charter member of the Church of the Redeemer, Dad was inducted into the Montgomery County Human Rights Hall of Fame in 2001. After living a full life dedicated to community and enriching the lives of those around him, he passed on January 4th, 2012. At his memorial service, County Executive Leggett announced that he would establish an award in the name of Roscoe R. Nix, and the first award would be presented to our father posthumously for his service to Montgomery County. It is our honor and pleasure to help present the Roscoe R. Nix Award to 3 devoted and dedicated honorees.
And introducing our first honoree are Sergeant Rebecca Anacenti and Officer Carlos Cortez from the Montgomery County Police Department.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. I'm Officer Carlos Cortez. I've been a police officer for about 8 years, but before I was a police officer, I was Blanca Klein's intern at the Public Information Office of the Montgomery County Police Department, the same public information office where I currently work as a spokesperson for the police department. As an intern, I witnessed her passion and dedication that she had for our community. I did that. She would start her day early in the morning doing radio interviews, and she would finish her day helping victims of crime. So I always wondered, how is she able to complete all these tasks? Where is she getting this energy from? But I quickly realized that she didn't push herself into completing this task. She was pulled into completing this task because her work was her passion. And her passion gave her sustainable energy to complete the task and to achieve the goals that she had in mind for our community. If I could describe her in one sentence, I would say she was a force of nature. Blanca Klein, Blanquita, as she was often referred to many in our community, served Montgomery County residents for over 40 years before her passing in January 2021. Blanca filled many roles throughout her career with the police department, including being a victims' rights advocate, a Hispanic liaison, and a spokesperson. A native of Bolivia, Blanca was the first person in her family to migrate to the United States when she was 17 years old. She graduated from Bethesda Chevy Chase High School and continued her studies at Montgomery College. Blanca's life of public service with the police department began in 1980 when she became a police service aide and then a victim specialist at the police department 4th District located in Wheaton. This was a time when more Spanish speakers were moving to Montgomery County, and Blanca's ability to speak and connect with the community was invaluable. Blanca continued her work helping residents as a member of the department's Community Engagement Division. In 2005, Blanca transitioned to working in the Public Information Division in a newly created Hispanic liaison spokesperson position. As a Hispanic liaison in the Public Information Division, Blanca wore many hats. She graciously hosted town hall meetings, assisted investigators at crime scenes by speaking with victims and witnesses, contributed to crime prevention efforts, was part of the street safety campaigns, and helped launch anti-gang programs at school. We would always be thankful for what she did for our community, and I would always be thankful for what she did for me. She had a lot of influence in my career path.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Anacenti, and I had the honor of working with Blanca Kling for approximately 11 years in the Public Information Division. She was not only my coworker, but she was a dear friend to me. Blanca strengthened communication, understanding, and trust between the police department and Hispanic community members. She spoke about police matters on Spanish language television and radio shows. If you went anywhere with Blanca, you soon realized how well known she was in the Hispanic community, as people would stop to talk to her after recognizing her from hearing her on the radio or seeing her on television. It was clear, when Blanca spoke, people listened. I would like to tell you just one story that illustrates the power of Blanca's voice. During a call for service, officers responded to an apartment complex where there was a gas leak. Fire and rescue personnel requested police assistance in evacuating residents to safety. During the evacuation process, one resident, who was believed to be experiencing a mental health crisis, refused to exit his apartment. The residents, most of them Spanish-speaking only, were scared and confused and were worried about what was occurring. Blanca, who had responded to the apartment complex to assist with translation, retrieved a megaphone that was being used by a police captain to try and communicate with a distressed resident. Blanca, who was petite, used that megaphone to talk to the group of residents and bystanders that were gathering in the apartment complex. Blanca very calmly informed the community members about what was happening and allayed their fears. A sense of calm overtook the crowd. That was Blanca, small but mighty. Blanca embraced every single position she held with selfless compassion. When Blanca was faced with a difficult or challenging problem, she always found a way to move mountains for those less fortunate or in despair. Her deep faith always guided her along the way. Blanca blessed all of our cubicles before we moved to the new headquarters on Edison Park Drive. Blanca would always tell me, Rebequita, as she would call me, I have one boss, and he's up there. And how did I argue with that? Even when Blanca was not officially at work, she was still working. She always was helping someone, whether it was driving someone to a doctor's appointment or organizing a holiday toy drive for those less fortunate. Throughout her career, Blanca received numerous awards of recognition for her tireless work. Blanca was a dedicated employee, but it is important to celebrate that she was a devoted wife, mother, grandmother, mentor, and friend. The number of people Blanca helped during her lifetime and the impact she had on this county and the world is immeasurable. There was no one more deserving of this award than Blanca Kling. Thank you.
My mom, Blanca Prudencio Kling, or Blanquita, as she was lovingly known by so many, arrived in the United States from La Paz, Bolivia in 1969 when she was just 17 years old. Her first job in the county was as an aide and interpreter for the police in the 80s. Still identifying as an immigrant, she was adapting to a new country, a new language, culture, which in so many ways was different from Bolivia. Here, she experienced discrimination firsthand and decided she had to work hard to advance herself in the lucha for those in the county facing similar obstacles. In the 2000s, she worked as a crime victim assistance coordinator in the 4th District. Here, she worked as an advocate for victims of homicide, assault, and other violent crimes. This humble but important work was most evident throughout the 2002 sniper attacks. She would go on to be named Latino liaison for the Chief of Police in the Media Services Division. In this newly created position, she went from direct service for her clients to appearing on Univision or Telemundo to give important press releases or host regular programming on Radio America or Montgomery County Cable, because she knew that she had to share this important information to the Spanish-speaking community on things like pedestrian safety, how to cooperate with law enforcement, and other important topics. She had to adjust to become a figurehead to the community on a public level in order to reach as many people as possible for the good of the community. She helped create a Latino liaison committee where law enforcement would meet monthly with community leaders throughout the county. A petite but unstoppable force, charismatic, fearless. Her body struggled to keep up with her mind and her heart and her spirit. She was sheer will and determination when she was focused on something, when she knew something needed to be done and there was a need that needed to be met. And she was the personification of Christ-like love. Her love of Jesus, her faith, this guided her. This was her compass. She was inspired by her culture and her country. She was proudly Bolivian. Everything about that country gave her life, gave her joy, taught her the meaning of living life amidst struggle, but making the most out of each moment, loving others. She dedicated her life to serving the community, undocumented families who deserved support, protection, and opportunity. She wanted to make sure that they weren't taken advantage of or treated as second class, but to have a voice, to have a role, to have dignity and belonging in the county. She knew that so many families had given so much to the county, and she wanted to make sure the county would give that back. She's an undeniable example of the power of love and service. Day to day for over 34 years, from the first day she worked as an interpreter to her last day working alongside the chief of police. She did what she loved, and she loved everyone. And with all of her being, she lived to serve others. She brokered healing and trust between the Latino community and the police over decades. She made strong ties with the Latino media and helped pioneer a new and much needed position that has given Latino residents of Montgomery County an important connection to the police and to their county. She was fearless, she was persuasive, and she spoke up to positions of power with respect and grace, but she was unapologetic about what she knew was the right thing that needed to be done. She is the pride of Bolivians and Latinos in the DMV. She was a celebrity, not just because she could be seen on TV, but because she genuinely touched and interacted with thousands, if not tens of thousands, of people and families in the county. And she lived doing what she was called to do, and she loved what she did. And she is without a doubt finally resting after having fulfilled God's call and her life's work. I am so proud of her legacy. I thank the county for recognizing her, and I believe we all need to continue to work together day in and day out to continue her legacy, to accomplish the goals that we know that she wants to continue to be accomplished.
Blanca was all about helping the community. She knew so many people and she cared so deeply about them. And even if she didn't know you, if you needed help, she was there to help and to follow up. She was an important bridge between the Latino community and the police. People trusted her, and they trusted her because she had earned that trust. They knew she cared deeply about each and every one of them. To Blanquita, as she was known, her job was not simply a job, it was about people's lives, and she touched and helped so many lives. Our community deeply mourns her passing, but we know that Montgomery County is a better place because of who she was and what she did. I'm appreciative of the opportunity to honor her work and remember her.
What an amazing legacy. What an amazing legacy. Wow. Accepting the award in memory of their late mother is Jason and Lizzie Kling.
Hey, Marc, can you raise it up some?
If I could just very quickly, Grace Rivera Oven is in the audience. So are just thousands of people in the community who are disciples of Blanca King, and I'm one of them, a proud person who received her personal mentorship. The bridges that she built throughout her entire career have never been more important than right now. And the relationship between law enforcement and our community and vice versa has never been more important than right now. What she taught all of us is there is a sweet spot. There is an opportunity for us to build trust and transparency while also recognizing the sacrifice and honor of our first responders. I commit as a policymaker, as well as all of my colleagues, to carry that legacy forward to ensure that everyone feels the safety and security that they deserve and that all of us should demand. So thank you all so much to the family for being here this evening, and on behalf of the entire council. Your mom was incredible. Her legacy lives forward. She truly will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start by thanking and congratulating all the other award winners here today. Thank you all for all that you've done and continue to do to make this country, county, and world a better place. Your lives are examples that reverberate and inspire others to be better. I want to give a very special thank you to County Executive Elrich for the tremendous honor and recognition of our beautiful and irreplaceable mother. Thank you to Officers Cortez and Anacenti, for Chief Jones and all the police, for your words and friendship with my mother. And for our family, giving me the honor to speak on their behalf. My mom's husband, Tony, my sister, Lizzie, her sister, Mirta, and husband, Gabriel, and nephew and niece, Luisa and Marcelo. My wife, Rachel, who couldn't be here today, she's taking care of our beautiful twin sons, my mom's grandsons, Noah and Matthias, and also to her friends, Grace, Barbara, Teresa, so many others who have given us so much support and love this year especially. It's hard for me to not want to mourn right now. Like so many of you in this room, her loss is still heavy, and there's such an unfillable void. I've reflected and prayed for wisdom on this, just like she taught how Lizzie and I should do, and to think of what she would do in this moment, and what would she want. And just like when she needed guidance, she taught me yet again that prayer works. She would want us to do two things, my mom. Maybe to some unrelated things. The first is to live with joy and love, to be with family and friends, and to laugh. The second is to fight to serve others and a higher power while we're still here. Of course, to everyone in this room, I may be preaching to the choir, but I've learned to follow in my mom's footsteps and to live as fully and profoundly as she did for others is a nearly impossible task. Even as I stand here and speak, I'm humbled in new ways about how incredible of a person our mother was. She was a larger than life person packed into a petite little body. She was humble and so grounded, yet so capable of moving mountains. She was a leader with a laser-sharp focus on whatever task was at hand, be it family, friends, or work. But to become this amazing person that still shines so bright, she had to fight and overcome so much. She came to the United States at 17 years old with no material things, but a substance, a spark, a drive, and a love that was rooted in her love for God. She left her family behind to make a better life for herself and eventually her family. She faced discrimination. She lived in fear, she was intimidated, and she felt like an outsider. But she fought, she overcame, and eventually she triumphed. From an early age, she internalized the message of the Gospels, to love as you are loved by God and to serve others. As a child in Bolivia, she witnessed a terrible incongruency in society, that there were indigenous women and children with clothes in tatters, begging for help, while others lived comfortably. It was so obvious to her that all people deserve dignity, respect, and love, and it went against every grain of her fiber, of her being, even from a young age. And this is the spark, the chispa that you can see in her and that's already been spoken about. My mom has taught me that family, and the call to love family and friends, the fight to serve others, they're not separate tasks, but in fact, one simple call to connectedness and repairing the incongruency in our world, to welcome all, to make no one in our society feel less than or an outsider, but instead more like an extended family. My mom would be so proud to be here today. She's here with us now because she has showed us that love is not a feeling, but it's a verb. And because her legacy lives on and continues when we are all connected and working in lockstep every day to realize her vision for a more just Montgomery County and a world, while we're still here on earth, we can continue to honor our mother. Thank you all so much. Love you.
To introduce our second Roscoe R. honorees, please welcome Shirley Brodman, an educational advocate, former member of the Montgomery County Board of Education, and chair of the Board of Advisors at the Universities of Shady Grove.
Good afternoon. Like so many of you, my heart is just overflowing with the inspiration that we've already heard. Congratulations and thank you. Deep gratitude to everyone who's already been recognized. It is my honor to stand today in recognition of my friend, a true, if often understated, equity warrior, Byron Johns. Byron is the education chair of the Montgomery County, Maryland branch of the NAACP and has dedicated himself tirelessly since 2011 to nurturing and leading the NAACP's Parents Council. For Byron, this journey was personal. Shortly after moving his family to MCPS when his own young son faced suspension, Byron aggressively vindicated his son's rights and quickly realized that here vigilance was critical to empowerment. He has shared his experience and led by example, inspiring thousands more parents to get involved in their children's education. Byron has grown the organization into an influential force of informed representatives who raise their voices collectively and effectively against institutional inequity. And for this work, he was recognized with the Distinguished Service to Public Education Award by our Board of Education. Byron's unique brand of leadership is reflected in the Parents Council's motto, embracing change through partnership. He has a keen sense of the power of collaboration to achieve lasting change. At the state level, Byron worked to establish the Maryland Coalition to Reform School Discipline. This partnership with the ACLU, Advocates for Children and Youth, and many others resulted in the successful passage of legislation that has significantly reduced the diversity and discipline for students of color. At the local level, Byron has been the driving force in expanding the Parents Council partnerships with the school district's leaders, the county's MCCPTA, the League of Women Voters, and as well with Identity, Inc. And here, to quote Casablanca, was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. In 2019, Byron and Diego Iruguru, who we'll hear about in a moment, taking full advantage of their credibility within their respective communities, facilitated a partnership between the Parents Council and Identity to co-found the Black and Brown Coalition for Educational Equity and Excellence. Today, the coalition harnesses the power of two historically underserved communities who now comprise 55% of the student body in our public schools, and together can forcefully challenge deeply embedded systemic inequities. The necessity of this partnership was fully evident during the early months of COVID-19 when schools shuttered. Hearing from Black and Brown students about their isolation and unreliable internet access, and from parents unable to supervise virtual learning given competing demands of work and health, Byron quickly and doggedly led an effort to stand up equity hubs. Partnering with the Children's Opportunity Fund, MCPS, public-private providers, and philanthropy, Byron worked relentlessly to ensure that students confronting the challenges of poverty would still take advantage of online school. In short, Byron Johns is a fitting choice to honor the legacy of Roscoe Nix. Byron's decade-long unwavering commitment to calling out inequity and taking decisive collaborative action in the interest of Black and Brown children would have made Roscoe Nix as proud as it makes all of us. I want to add a personal note of thanks to both Byron and Diego, whom I have the pleasure of working with. I will share that I'm also a very proud member of the Board of Identity, and this moment and this partnership and this collaborative are worthy of the respect and honor of our county in coming together, a theme that we've heard articulated so effectively today. Congratulations.
When I came to Bell Laboratories, and I was just right out of college, the first thing I did was start up a program for young black high school kids who were not exposed to sciences. And this is 40 years ago, not exposed to science and technology. So I created internships for 20, 30 kids every year from my alma mater, from Morehouse, Spelman, Clark University. Every year I brought 20, 30 kids up and got them exposed to that. Realizing the impact and the doors that opened for me was just natural. And again, growing up in a house where you reach back in the community, don't go through the door and not open it and keep it open for others. And then coming into Montgomery County, there's a rich culture of philanthropy, of volunteerism here, very progressive in general speaking. And education was a key for me, quite literally. When I think about, for everyone I know, the education is what allowed me to enjoy what I think is, a rich lifestyle and experience that some things I wouldn't have even imagined. I had been advocating for a better part of a decade under the NAACP for access, opportunities, dealing with discrimination and other concerns that are traditional for the NAACP. I often ran into and came across Diego Uriburu, who heads Identity, and we were advocating. I'm going in the door, he's coming out the door, or vice versa, in the various structures. And then we finally met and sat down, and we become, good allies and friends, and started realizing, 80% of what we are looking to accomplish is the same. And so it was transformative when we had, at that time, Superintendent Smith had commissioned a report on resource equity and had started to really lay this structure for that. And we came together and looked at this data and said, if we don't act on this data that clearly shows institutional issues, the structural barriers that were there that impeded access and opportunity for Black and brown students, which represent 54, 55%. So they are the majority of MCPS. Unlike what it was 30, 40 years ago, where it was 90% white. But now the majority is Black and brown. And it became really clear that to move this, we had been working, making small successes, probably mostly treading in place in terms of actually moving the system. Coming together as a majority has really elevated the ability to be heard and to have influence within the power structures. None of the work I've done exists without building on work that has been done long before by many other people. And there are some figures on all stripes, be they, Christian or Jewish or Black or white or Asian or Latino. There's really been it takes all of us to build a fabric. I say that this award, while I'm honored and humbled, I also want to acknowledge that it has been the years of dedication that people have carried this, kept this organization going. The Parents Council has been around 25 years. The foresight of those early people, some of which are still with us, to have founded and created such an organization, and for the community that comes together and brings life in it. Any one of us can lead. A lot of this is, can you lead in a way that people want to follow?
Byron Johns has shown through his dedicated advocacy that he understands the importance of quality education for historically disadvantaged communities. For years, he has volunteered countless hours advocating on behalf of African American students in our schools. They and all of us have needed his voice, and he has helped make a difference. I especially want to highlight his relatively recent work with Diego Iruguru to form the Black-Brown Coalition. The coalition brought together the two largest minority groups, and it has highlighted the fact that they share common issues and struggles in the schools and with social services. The coalition has amplified their voices by speaking with one voice and uniting multiple communities. The work of the coalition demonstrates the power of coming together. They have shown that 1 + 1 equals more than 2. While some people may focus on the difference, the Black and Brown Coalition focuses on what they have in common. The work Byron has done helped make Montgomery County a better and more equitable county. Congratulations, Byron.
Congratulations, Mr. Johns. Would you please come and receive your award?
I'll be brief again, just very quickly. Somebody should look this up, but I think Byron and Diego may have actually been separated at birth. The way that the synergy and their collaboration is absolutely extraordinary, and Dr. King has been quoted a couple times today. One of my favorite quotes in his speeches was the eloquence with which he described the urgency of now. Our children and youth and families are facing unprecedented challenges, hard to even possibly imagine what they're going through right now. And so the coordinated efforts and the bridges that are being built by these two remarkable gentlemen is truly important. So on behalf of the council, thank you, Byron, for your steadfast leadership. We appreciate and respect that leadership very much, and we stand with you. Thank you.
I just want to add quickly that as a council member, I experienced the parade of people coming in for money, and it literally is one person coming in the door, going out, another person coming in. Having two groups with such common interests presenting separately was not a good way to move forward. When things are so common and budgets tend to be looked at as this versus that, and it's a limited sum game, as treating these as separate entities rather than saying same problems, same issues, the need for common action, that's one of the most important things I think you brought and Diego's brought to the county. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Council Executive Elrich and Council President Albanov. I appreciate this very much. I want to also thank all of you here as the residents of Montgomery County, Maryland. And I want to stress that because I don't want it to be confused with Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, or Ohio, which I have also lived in, and Alabama. And there are 15 other Montgomery counties out there in there. But I want to thank you again for your tireless efforts on the council and as executive to make this county a better place for all of us. I received this honor with a really great humility. The Harvey Zeiglers and the folks. I was wondering whether the program had been organized by age in the way they had kind of lured there, but I see that isn't necessarily the case. Diego keeps telling me I'm his older relative. But my accomplishments really here, I'm only a resident of the county literally moved here the day before 9/11, so 20 years. And the accomplishments to what I've heard, they pale by comparison to those who have been here and dedicated such incredible efforts and contributions for so many years, including that for Roscoe Nix, who this award is named after. But I hope it does inspire each of us and all of us to seek our better natures and to pursue support and service for our common humanity. I want to particularly thank my wife, Lynn, who's here. 30 years we've been traveling this together. She would say it's been longer, but that's a different story. My son and daughter, my son Byron and my daughter Skylar, who are away, hopefully safe and returning. My brother and his family, who are in the other Montgomery County in Pennsylvania, and my parents, who are no longer with us, who instilled the dedication to service and to education. And that's really where I have kind of focused my contributions in this county. I want to take a moment, just because of the times we are living in, to thank all of the educators that I have had over the years that have afforded me a rich and rewarding life, far beyond my imagination when I was young. And to all those today who serve this noble profession, and our children, our young people today, and truly aspire to the highest goals and mission of this noble profession. While it's great to be able to gather here and to celebrate our shared humanity during this holiday season, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the considerable challenges we are confronted with all around us. In the midst of new threats, an increasing risk of catastrophe in every direction, and it seems the very fabric of our communities being torn, it's really moments like these to come together, to mend the fabric, to celebrate our shared humanity on this earth, and to recognize not only the few that are here, but honor all those who toil to relieve suffering and to create a more just society for all of us. Let us pledge to be good stewards of the many blessings we have had passed on to us, and that we leave this place a little better for the next. Thank you.
And we'd like to ask the county executive to introduce our next Nix honoree.
So it's my great privilege to introduce Diego Iruguru for this next award. And I've known Diego for decades. He founded the Identity in 1998. He's been the executive director since 2011. And I can tell you from being on the legislative of this that he's been a tireless advocate for change and a tireless advocate for accountability. And does not simply walk through the door and say, I've had my minute, do what you will. He wants to make sure that what we will do are the things that we actually need to do. And it's really been an honor to work with him and to see the growth of Identity and the role, the larger role, much larger role that it now plays in the community. And I especially, again, want to note the creation of Black-Brown Coalition, because he and I talked about how we go forward in this county. And how do we talk about the common problems so people don't see it as my group versus another group, but the fact that this is a combination, this is a problem for all of our children. And our children don't know the groups. At least we try not to have them know the groups and get locked into that too early. And what they see is, the experience they have in school. And we needed to make sure we treated them as they needed to be treated, regardless of where they came from. They all deserve to have the opportunities in Montgomery County Public Schools that all children should have, because those opportunities are the key to the future. And I just have to say that, the work that you've done and this new iteration, I think, is going to make Montgomery County a better place. I really look forward to working with you, and it's been a real privilege to have known you and to have worked with you in the past. So thank you very much, and you really are deserving of this. We have, I think, many great honorees here today, and I think their work collectively and individually has been extraordinary, and I couldn't be prouder of this. So thank you.
Came to the United States in 1995 and to the county a bit later. And when I started working with the Latino community in this area, the first thing that we did was to conduct a needs assessment, because no one knew what was happening with this community. So we were able to document what the young people were undergoing, what the parents were undergoing. What that needs assessment told us that there were almost no services for these communities, and because we saw a county that was willing to partner, to work together, it was enough for us to move here, and we settled in Montgomery County. And that led to almost 25 years of service, and I find it to be a privilege to serve this community. They have tremendous skills, intelligence, work ethic, but sometimes people need a little lift in order to get there. And I know that I got that lift when I came to this country. If others had not believed in me, I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't have been able to serve the people that I love. Our communities were not advancing, in education, in health, etc. So I met Byron almost 4 or 5 years ago. We became friends, and we talked about starting an alliance for Black and Brown to work together. And it was not easy, because our communities did not trust each other at that point. We began testifying jointly. Now we will go either together or one after the other and support each other's testimonies, particularly in the area of education. And then one day we said, okay, let's make it formal, and we created the Black and Brown Coalition. And a few months later, we were able to bring close to 1,200 people, Black and Brown, grassroots, who believed in us, who believed in the mission, together, because they understood that together we made up 54% of MCPS's student population. But we had no power, and others were dictating what was happening to us. They did not understand us, they did not respond to our needs. So we decided that building this coalition would bring power to the two communities. The methodology of the Black and Brown Coalition is that we use data and we inform the community about that data in a way that people can digest it and understand it, and that it pairs with their experiences. And people felt very empowered and upset because of what they were seeing. We are seeking a shift in power, in the power dynamics. Our populations have not had power, but we are, as I said, the majority when we work together. So during the past few years, the achievement gap, inequities, they all pre-existed COVID. The coalition was founded before COVID. But what COVID did is exacerbate those inequities, and people saw them. At the same time, the county became very conscious about inequities and racial injustices, and the county began to move in that direction too. So I think that we formed ourselves at the right time, in the right place, and the future is a joint Black and Brown communities working together, demanding what we deserve, which is equity. This is not a zero-sum game where in order for us to succeed, others have to fail. That is not the case. But we will continue to push and hopefully become bigger. Maybe other jurisdictions will learn about the transformative change that can happen as a result of these communities coming together. When I see individuals, families, community members who for years have accepted the status quo, that have taken a lot of bad things and thought that that was the norm, that felt completely disempowered, to see the change in them, to see them become demanding, aggressive, having new tools to protect their children and their children's future, it fills me with joy. I do not take it as an award for me. I'd be happy to be the recipient of it, but it's in the name of thousands of others who who allowed me to be where I am and who work day in and day out with me to make things happen. And by that I mean people who have very little that put a lot of trust on what we do, that when we tell them this is happening and we show the data, they believe us, they leave work to come and show support, they entrust us the future of their children. So it's a huge responsibility, and that fills me with tremendous amount of gratitude, if you will. Gratitude that they gave me an opportunity, and at the same time, a recognition that I did some good with my life.
Diego has been a long-time effective advocate for young people in need and in crisis. But he has been more than that. He has always continued to insist on accountability. Many people champion causes and are good at that, but Diego has never been satisfied when someone says, we're going to look into it, we'll deal with it. He follows up. He's driven to make sure that when we say we'll do something, we actually do it. Diego's dedication and good work spans decades, and I want to especially remark on some of his more recent work with Byron Johns to create the Black-Brown Coalition. The creation and work of the coalition is incredibly important. The Black-Brown Coalition brought together the two largest minority groups who face common issues and common struggles, particularly in the schools and with social services. The coalition has brought together multiple communities and demonstrated the power of one voice united. The work has shown that 1 + 1 is much greater than 2. Where some people try to find the differences, the Black and Brown Coalition highlights the commonalities. It's not surprising to anyone who knows him that Diego would take on this work of building coalition and community and to demand accountability. We are lucky to have him working on behalf of so many in this county. Congratulations, Diego.
And congratulations, Diego. Please join us to receive your award.
I'll be quick again, I promise. But 18 years ago, I was working for a nonprofit organization that's very similar to Identity, and I attended a meeting at a middle school in Riverdale, Maryland. It was a town hall to discuss the explosion and gang activity that was happening in the Langley Park area at that time. And in walks this gentleman who meticulously and thoughtfully and authentically explained the psychology of what would lead children to commit these atrocious crimes, and provided the context that explained what was happening to them and to their community. I had never heard anyone speak and be able to translate their challenges in the way that I did that evening. And that man was Diego Uriburu. And 18 years later, I've had the honor and privilege of working side by side, as so many of us have, with him as he has continued to translate those challenges, but turned them into policy, turned them into programs, turned them into initiatives that are truly contributing to the development of system building that we need to break this terrible cycle of poverty. People like Diego give me hope that there is a better future for all of us. And so, Diego, I know you've been through a lot these last few years. Thank God you are still here, because we need you to keep fighting for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone who still remains here. So, awards make me a little bit uneasy, but before I give my speech, I want to thank my daughter Sophia, my son Benjamin that's there, and Delphi left because she had a meeting. But I accept this award on behalf of my colleagues at Identity, staff on board, but most importantly, on behalf of the thousands of Latino young people and families that I have the privilege to serve through Identity. It's an honor also to be honored at the same time as Blanquita and Byron, two amazing individuals. The community that we serve inspire me. The stories make me sad. Sometimes I get angry, but I also get emboldened by them. And I thought of a story this morning. I was thinking, and this story kept coming to mind, about this mother that was referred to us by the court to do community service hours at Identity because she only spoke Spanish. Her crime? To steal a piece of meat from the supermarket. Why? Because she had 3 children and she was starving. They were starving. Imagine committing that crime, no? Not going for the cookie, going for a piece of meat to cook to your children. Imagine the situation that you have to be in. She has never had any crime before, committed any crimes, and she was in such stage of desperation that she went to the supermarket to steal. When I think about how people struggle for equity in terms of access to education, access to health, access to some basic needs that some of us take for granted, it really provides, or gives me a desperate sensation that we have to do more. And these things happened were daily occurrences before the pandemic, and the pandemic things make things 10 times worse. But I have to say that this award cannot be accepted as an individual. It is the effort, the joint effort that we have with, yes, my peers at Identity, board and staff, but also with the county. And I have to just thank the county executive and the county council for turning around the trajectory that we're going in the pandemic. The Latino community, the infection rate started going up and up and up and up, and they took the leadership and they changed the strategy. And they created a program called Salud y Bienestar that changed the future, no? They prevented thousands of people from dying, from starving, from being evicted. And I really want to thank you for being the leaders of this county. As I said it in the video, the coalition was formed at the right time, but also at the right place. You are amazing, amazing leaders. But I do need to make a request, no? This opportunity should not come without a request. We cannot go back to what was the norm prior to the pandemic. This county has tremendous amount of services, but many in our communities are not aware of those services, and they died because of that. They died because of that. We must have a new baseline where both in county services and in MCPS, the community drives the solution. We are not dumb, no, so don't treat us as such. We can contribute a lot, and that's what County Executive Elrich and Gabe and his team and the council members did. They turned a problem that the county was not able to fix, and they asked the community for help, and together, county and community really create an inflection point where now the Latino community has one of the highest vaccination rates in the country, the Latino community in Montgomery County, because of your work. So please make a commitment to not going back to that norm. We cannot. You establish a new baseline. We cannot go beyond that. So thank you so much.
Put the hubs in the budget for this year, and we're going to keep the hubs as a permanent feature of Montgomery County. We're going to do everything we can to maintain the contacts in the community and do work with community organizations as an extension of the work we do. So we learned from this, and what we learned from this was good for COVID, but it's good for building a stronger community without COVID. So we will continue.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being in Montgomery County with leaders like you. Thank you. I know he looks like my grandson.
Congratulations once again, and congratulations to all the honorees. And as we conclude this morning's inspiring ceremony, we want to thank and congratulate once again all this year's honorees.
Yes. And give it up for Montgomery County. Awesome. What is going on? We've lived here for over 20 years, and so we're so proud to be a part of this and all of the change and the leadership and all that's going on. So, all right. So By your deeds and example, you have helped Montgomery County build a strong, diverse, and welcoming community in uniquely challenging times. Keep up the good work. We need it. To all our honorees, please come forward for some group photos. And again, thank you for your service.
Thank you.